Welcome, everyone. My name is Jack Rico, and you're listening to episode 76 of Highly Relevant, a U.S. Latino podcast examining how Hispanics are influencing and reshaping mainstream entertainment in the United States. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about three things. Number one, it's the Avengers. It's really a phenomenon at this point. Number two, Childish Gambino's This Is America video. It's become a national conversation on culture, and it's rare when art does that, especially a music video of just 4 minutes. And finally, there's a movie coming out this week called Breaking In with Gabrielle Union and Rosalind Sanchez. What makes this movie interesting? Well, Mike Sargent comes on the show. We're going to be tackling all these subjects. We're going to be sort of peering down the layers and finding out exactly what makes these things tick, why they become such big news, and why people are so attracted to this. Mike Sargent on the way here on the Highly Relevant Podcast. Too many guys just accept that underwear will chafe right up, fall apart after a few wears. Well, enough is enough. We men deserve better, and that's what Saxx underwear is all about. This is underwear reinvented, specifically designed for our anatomy to be so comfortable and so supportive. Saxx knew there had to be a better way to make men's underwear, so they challenged the industry status quo and created the ballpark pouch. This is my favorite, and it is revolutionary. It feels like angel wings when you're wearing them. Everything stays put, complete separation from your thighs, no friction whatsoever. You can move around comfortably no matter what you're doing, and every pair of Saxx is made with the highest quality materials, made to last. Wearing Saxx underwear has changed my expectations for what a great pair of underwear should feel like. I want you to feel a difference too. So I've worked with Saxx underwear on this great limited time deal just for you. Shop from anywhere on their site and get $5 off plus free shipping on your first purchase. But to get this great offer, you need to use my promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT at checkout. Order a few pairs of Saxx now with this great offer and go to Saxx Underwear at SAXXunderwear.com. That's Saxx with 2 X's and use the promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT at checkout. Remember, SaxxUnderwear.com, promo code HIGHLYRELEVANT. And joining me now is Mike Sargent, great friend of mine and great friend of the podcast. You could see him on Fox News, PBS, WBAI Radio. And Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again.
Oh, please. Anytime, Jack.
Mike, lot to talk about this week. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing. I just finished rewatching the Avengers Infinity War once again, because I was underwhelmed the first time around, and my brother had called me and said, hey, have you seen it? I said, yeah, but you know what? I wasn't really pleased with the experience. I'd like to rewatch it again. But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it at the best theater possible for this particular type of film, which is the 68th Street Broadway Lincoln Square AMC Theater at the IMAX. Number one, the reason I chose that, it's because it's the second largest screen in the world after Australia. The American Museum of Natural History has an IMAX screen that's just as big, but this one tends to be just a little bigger. We're talking about, like inches, but it matters because the one at the American Museum feels more like a hall, where this one feels like a theater with Dolby Atmos. There were speakers on top. They had remodeled it, refurbished it. It is absolutely incredible. They replaced the screen that had a couple of scratches on it before. The price for that was $26. So that was $26 for me. I went with my brother and his wife. That's $80-something. Plus, he bought popcorn, Subway. I had to take a taxi because I was coming back from a funeral. And the whole thing came out to essentially over $100 just to see this movie. But I felt like I needed to do that, Mike, because I was underwhelmed. And I felt like it needed to have a better experience, one with the largest screen and the best audio equipment possible for this type of film. And I got to tell you, it was like a brand new movie to me. And I had problems with the original one because I felt that the audio was muffled. I couldn't hear dialogue. I felt like I was watching a B version of that movie. It wasn't as crisp. Uh, I also watched it in 3D in this IMAX, so the action felt like it was in my face, like right next to me. So, dude, I much more enjoyed it. So if I thought Avengers was a 7, I think it's an 8 now, 8.5.
Well, it's interesting. You said a bunch of things there that I wanted to touch upon. One, you said how, and I agree with you. I saw the Avengers Infinity War at the same screening you did, and I had the same issues with the sound that you did. But, you know, this touches upon something that maybe we forget here. A lot of times they poo-poo, oh, Hollywood makes these event picks, these tent poles, these superhero films. Why are people still going? Or is it dying? Is superhero films dying? Well, here's what superhero films are today. They are the spectacle. That's what they are. And, human beings like a spectacle. That's why do we go to a movie? If you go to a certain kind of movie, you go because you like that experience. And you used that word. You said, oh, I didn't, I was, you were unimpressed. And if you were going to see it again, this is the experience you wanted.
Yeah.
And this movie was meant for that. And, I have to say, again, I agree with you. I missed seeing Black Panther in IMAX 3D, but seeing Avengers Infinity IMAX 3D, I'm planning to go see it again myself. I'm probably going to do it some point in the next 5 days. I would like to do that with the audience, just the way you did it. Full house, energy of the audience, energy of the one great thing you talk about the refurbishment of that theater in particular.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that they did, which for me is like, wow, like they get it. When you're watching a movie, your eyes have to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And your eyes will always adjust to the lighting. So when they're playing trailers, the lights are down, but they still have the giant, annoying IMAX signs on the side, okay? And they keep that going while you're still watching these IMAX trailers, and your eyes adjust, okay? And you start to ignore the IMAX annoying signs.
Right, there's these like massive hanging signs that say IMAX.
That say IMAX, exactly.
It's sexy,
exactly. But then when the movie starts, they turn out all of those lights. And now you're immersed in the screen. And I thought, like, when the first time I went to the refurbishment, I was like, wow, yeah, because you're ready for the movie. You're ready to be immersed. It's setting you up for an experience.
It was my first time after the refurbishment, man. And so
you get it.
It's like a brand new theater, dude. And it's worth the $26 freaking dollars, I have to say. Let me tell you something. Some movies are made for just a regular old, theater down the block from your neighborhood, and some of them are just trashy because a lot of these managements, they don't spend any money. They just want to make money. And if people are still coming in, why refurbish it? Why renovate it? Why spend money when I need to make money? So these guys, they spend
why clean the carpets when the lights are out anyway?
Right. But it makes one hell of a difference. And I think that movies like Avengers, any epic movie, any massive superhero film like a Black Panther that everyone's going to be talking about, guys, ladies, spend the money. Don't go to the crappy theater to watch Avengers Infinity War. Don't do it. Because the amount of production that goes into it merits 100 speakers, the largest screen possible. And if that means that the theater you go to is leather chairs, reclinable with like a menu and a waiter coming in, do it. This is an experience. Movies like this don't come often. This year, we've been treated to 2 huge ones with Black Panther and Avengers, and it's going to continue throughout the year. But these are the movies that you don't spend $5 at the matinee on a 2 p.m. on an afternoon on a Tuesday, where no one's in the theater and none of the jokes fall and you're the only one supposedly giggling. This is meant for the full swath of the experience.
I have to say, I think there are 5 major factors that play into this success. I think 1, 10 years means you're invested in these characters. And you're not just invested in these characters, but you're invested in the universe. And one thing science fiction and fantasy has shown us that human beings, the more well-defined the reality, the alternate reality is, the more engrossed and invested you can become, whether it's Lord of the Rings or Star Trek, or I mean, there are books that world, people knew that world long before they were making movies out of them. So that's one. Two, I think that, again, the experience of movies, like what you're talking about, the blockbuster, the whole idea of the blockbuster is biggest theater, biggest crowd.
It's going out with
popcorn,
your friends, getting dressed up, in your coolest gear.
It's an event.
Yeah, exactly. Going out to dinner, taking out the car and putting it in the parking lot. And even though it's going to cost you $40, but it's about the freaking experience that you can't have at home.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And then the third thing I think is that, what kind of stories are we seeing? We want to experience them, we're invested in these characters, but what are these stories? They're fables. They're fables about just like the best stories. You look back at any story from Shakespeare.
They're rooted in Greek mythology.
Right, exactly. Well, not only that, but Greek mythology was also rooted in giving us lessons about being human.
Come on. Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful thing. And I felt that that's what Superman has always been,
Exactly.
It's if you read back any Greek mythology story, these gods are really superheroes. The label today is superheroes. The label back then was gods. And we're just seeing Greek stories being told today. And they never die. They're classics. This is stuff that we can watch forever.
I agree with you, and I think not only are they Greek gods, and I absolutely agree with that, but what makes those stories work is that they're telling us, there's a larger, like they're stories that are telling us about the human experience. There's a tale being told. It's whether it's a Bible story or a Greek god, it's mythic. So we're having these mythic stories told to us. I think that... You want to get that?
Yeah, give me a second.
No worries.
There is nothing I hate more in my life right now than spam calls that are coming in.
Oh my God.
I just
did a story on this. Go ahead.
We have to talk about this for a second. I've been overwhelmed. My cell phone was the only sacred thing where I didn't get spam calls. And as of late, I started getting them. And it was overwhelming. Dude, I'm getting more calls from telemarketing spam recorded calls than people. And that's when I was alerted. And I'm not sure. Have you seen, you should check this video out.
Dude. Yeah, go ahead.
You should check this video out. It's on The Verge. Right, the Verge website, they have a YouTube channel where they do the best freaking videos, the most well-produced. I mean, I'm talking about they use steady cams just to do these videos. And they did one on spam calls. And basically what it says, there's these apps. One of them is Nomo Robo. The other one is Haya. AT&T, if you're an AT&T subscriber, there's a app that AT&T created to stop spam calls. And so I downloaded both of them. It's now working. I noticed it working because I only got one robocall today. I usually get 5 by the end of the afternoon. And then you call the National Registry of Do Not Call from the Federal Trade Commission, and you put your name on there too. And so by law, they start removing them little by little. But I've been a member since like 2008. It's 10 years ago, and they still call my house, but I hate them. They interrupt my podcast. They interrupt my reading, my working, and you think it's somebody. You pick up the phone, it's a freaking recording. And I don't know what else to do, man. It's like I want to smash my phone. It's playing tricks on my mind, Mike.
So I did some research, okay?
What you find?
And I'm going to tell you what I found, okay? Because I did a segment on this on my radio show. Okay. Okay. All right. It says robocall limits in U.S. set back by federal appeals court. An appeals court threw out part of a Federal Communications Commission regulation aimed at reducing automated telephone solicitations, weakening a 2015 effort to squelch the scourge of so-called robocalls. The rule was aimed at calls generated by auto-dialing devices, simply for attempting in good faith to communicate with customers who previously provided valid consent to be contacted.
Bullshit.
Exactly. Now, listen to this. listen to this. Oh, this is a huge win that allows American businesses and consumers to communicate with each other. Can you imagine?
I'm being tortured mentally at this point.
Exactly.
I had to stop this podcast at one point because I thought it was my wife calling or it was a family member calling my home landline. And I go to the phone and it's a recording trying to sell me something. It's too much. It's invading my privacy. How is that good for me?
This only the last couple months it got insane, like crazy. Like every day I would get, and they do this thing where it comes up as a number that's close to yours.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Now they're masking the 212 number.
Yes, I've seen that too. Yes, and you just get like 7 numbers come up.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you that are interested in knowing how they got that 212 number, it's easy. If you go to Google and you search purchasing or buying a 212 area code, they're for sale. I have a 212 area code.
You know, it's funny you say that because I keep my 212 number for my landline, I should say, not because it's a 212, but I keep it because if satellite ever went out or power ever went out, you can always still use your landline. And, I did let the fax go after not sending a fax for like 4 years. Okay. But I had a fax.
You still use faxes?
No, that's what I'm saying. I had a fax line. I had a dedicated fax line.
I hate it when a company asks me to fax them over something.
I haven't had that.
I go, what planet are you?
See,
it was my car insurance company upstate. They were like, can you fax us that? And I said,
fax.
I don't do faxes. Like the other day I was at an event and somebody says, you have a business card. And I flat out told them, looked at them straight in the eye and I said, I don't do business cards anymore.
You are so 21st century, I got to tell you.
Yo, if you don't tell them that, then they don't understand that the move forward is, you know what people have been doing with me? They give me their phones.
Oh, of course. Listen, I've been doing that for years. Listen,
they just give me their phones, and then you type in all your information in their phone, and then you hand it back.
Listen, I tell you what, I know some people do, and I have to say, I think it's smart. I haven't done it, but what they do is they take a picture of me too. Because
see, I haven't done that yet.
I haven't done it yet.
I don't pose for someone's picture.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean, they need to remember who it is, whose number it is.
That's true. That's true. But I still haven't posed for anybody.
No, well,
I'm hoping that I'm memorable enough.
Exactly. You'll just fantasize.
You'll know who I am.
This is true.
You'll know who I am. So that's my issue with spam. But getting back to the Avengers really quick, I was thinking the other day how, because you were talking, off air about the specialized platforms in the distribution of these movies. Let me ask you this. We know we're living in the mobile era now. What would happen if somebody decided to say, I'm not going to pay any money to go see it in the theater, and I'm not even going to watch it at home on my TV set. I'm going to watch Avengers Infinity War on my iPhone.
Well, here's what I think. I'm going to tell you my.
Can you extract a proper opinion of that film after they spent over $250 million to make that movie? Do you think that a kid, watching it in an iPhone for 2 hours and 29 minutes, that they can go, yeah, that was the best movie I ever seen? Or they're going to be like, it was okay.
It's something mythic. And so if you got a mythic film back in the day, in the 50s, they used to have like these gladiator films, and in Cinerama,
Kirk Douglas,
exactly. So
Spartacus.
But then to watch Ben-Hur on a small black and white TV in the 60s, that couldn't have been the same experience. You know what I mean? So, watching an epic in non-epic or in a non-experiential way, I think the only thing that will happen, agreeing with what you're saying about the iPhone, I definitely say, no, you're not going to have the same experience unless you have a great home theater system, and even then. But I think what people will start doing is if your iPhone, because I know people that don't have a computer, they don't have anything, they don't have a stereo, they got their iPhone.
Who do you you know that doesn't have any of this stuff, Mike? How old are
young
they?
people. That's all I'm going to say.
No. Young people have it all, man.
Listen to me. You can have your
And
iPhone.
when we're talking about young, you and I are young. I mean, are these like 20-year-olds, teenagers?
Late 20s, early 30s. That's what I'm saying. Okay. And,
holy shit, man.
But here's what I'm getting at. What you can do, though, is, and again, people have said this to me, and I was like, I would never have even thought of doing that. With the VR headset, there's a setting where you can watch a movie as if you're in an IMAX theater, and it puts it in stereo in your ears, and you could be laying on your couch or getting whatever position you want, and it adjusts the VR for your viewpoint that you want. Okay.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but now you're pretending to watch it at home in IMAX.
That's crazy. Now, I'll say this, though. I was watching Avengers in 3D in the IMAX theater.
Yes.
And after halfway through the film, which is about an hour and a half in, I had to take the goggles off. I had to take the 3D sets off.
Oh, really? Okay. Talk to me.
I got a little, I don't want to use the word dizzy because that's not the word, but my eyes started having a level of discomfort. And I took it off for a while. I needed maybe about 30 seconds to a minute to put them back on. And I did it again before the movie ended.
No.
And I said, wow, so this hasn't really truly been perfected, at least from my eyes.
Well, where were you sitting? Can I ask where you were sitting?
I was sitting third row from the back. So that was pretty far up. My brother never took them off and he never complained. So maybe it's a personal thing.
I think it is.
Yeah, I had to take the 3D headsets off. So I had seen a friend's video on virtual reality. It was about 5 minutes. That was enough. I started getting some pains in my head, and I'm like, I don't suffer from migraines. I don't suffer from any of that stuff. So I was shocked, actually, when I was watching virtual reality for quite some time.
But getting back to how we take in things now, because the way we, there's a lot of power to that. There's a lot of power to
the visual experience,
to the experience of being told a story.
And Childish Gambino, which is Donald Glover,
exactly,
he does this very well.
Yes, he does, and he's telling a story. There are many layers. We could spend quite some time unpacking what's in that video. But
so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I want to know first. Tell me what your thoughts were.
Well, if anybody hasn't seen it, Donald Glover uses a stage name by the name of Childish Gambino. He's been nominated for a Grammy already. This dude can easily be an EGOT. Don't you think?
He's already won an Emmy for the show. He's
already won an Emmy for Atlanta
for the show he created.
Right, and this dude could easily be an EGOT. He has the respect of everybody. This is more than just fandom. This is a level of respect for art, and the dude is an artist. And he just came out with a recent video just last week called This Is America. It already has 65,424,403 views as of May 10th, 254. And it's the most talked about video of the whole week. And it's probably going to be the most talked about video of the year. Not many people, not many videos, especially music videos, have this level of engagement. And I think that the key reasons are it's because it's dealing with racism, violence, and social commentary on the entertainment industry. And when I first saw it, I said, okay, I started seeing on Twitter, on the news feed, and I said, okay, this is popping up a little bit too much. What's going on with this video? I finally sat down. My wife received a text from a friend of hers from Miami. He was like, you got to watch this video. You got to watch this video. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to get around to do it. Finally saw it. And it's a very unusual video. It doesn't follow the protocol sort of storyline. It's not average in any way. This is a bit of art. It talks about the prejudice from whites to blacks, gun violence in this country. It says all that within about a 4-minute span. I'm not crazy about the song, but I definitely got the message of what he was trying to say about how America is today. It's a capitalistic country that only gives two hoots about money, about how to make that money, about how everyone's in it for themselves. There's a level of individuality that exists more than ever now. The fact that a music video does that especially today where everybody's kind of just like very hypersensitive about this types of subjects, was really, really great for me. Because my wife and I have been complaining for quite some time now how there are no artists talking about society anymore, like the way Bob Dylan used to talk about back in the 60s, and Paul Simon and the Beatles and John Lennon. They don't make artists like that anymore. So the fact that we're back to sort of this grassroots, let's talk about what's really happening about our America and how fucked up it is. Let's talk about it. It's refreshing, and I'm glad that he decided to take it. By the way, this dude is the great new artist of our generation.
I agree with you on everything you said. I think that it's very powerful that like a painting, that like a really good painting or a really good piece of writing, it's something that can be unpacked. It's something that can be looked at, analyzed, discussed. And I think that's part of why he's done it. He's not responding. He's put the art out there and letting it speak for itself and letting it speak to people. People are getting, he clearly, though this seems like a simple video, it is not in any way simple. There are so many things going on, from him, posing like Jim Crow and Uncle Ruckus and Richard Pryor and so many things that just to research it, most people don't even know that Jim Crow was a character that was used to demean black people, and the name was so demeaning and had so much power that they eventually created the laws became dubbed Jim Crow laws. How many people are ever talking about that? How many young people, especially? So I have to say there are many things about it that are really just to research any of his references, whether it's the obvious ones, or the allegorical ones of how we dance when our young black people are being killed, and there's no respect whether they're a church group or not, and he's just talking about what's going on and making us think, and for art to make us think.
Right.
I don't know if I really believe in art for art's sake. I think that if you've got people's attention, you should be saying something. And I agree with you.
When you first saw the video, there's two reactions that people have.
Mm-hmm.
There's that first immediate gut instinct reaction to something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you don't think about it too much. And then there's a retrospect reaction where you took some time to digest it and then you kind of verbalize sort of your thoughts in a streamlined way. I want to hear about your gut reaction when you saw the video. Did it speak to you in any way?
Well, it did. And three things. One, like you, I had heard so much about this. Heard so much about it. I'd seen clips and I didn't know what, all right. Yeah. I mean, I respect Donald Glover. I know about Childish Gambino. I've talked to, the composer of Black Panther, ironically, is the same guy who produces.
He's Swedish, right?
Yes, he is. And he's the same guy who produces all the Childish Gambino tracks. I'd been hearing the controversy, the pushback about how quote unquote woke he is by the fact that he has a white wife, Donald Glover. So there's
Oh, I didn't know that.
exactly, and does it matter? But all of these things I'd heard. So watching it, I was really curious of what's in there. And now there are a few things stood out to me. I definitely caught the. Do you know who Fela Kuti is?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, I definitely caught the Fela Kuti aspect of it. The whole idea of just be out there, be naked, say what's on your mind, be totally political. Like from the jump, I got that. But also, I got the African dancing, the guana guana. I definitely got that. And for me, as a West Indian, I totally picked up on just his hairstyle and how his movements, the Caribbean influence in there. And so I definitely got the sense of, the diaspora. So the music itself, the theatrical nature of it, the places he stops, the violence stood out to me right away, and the irony of the violence, how it was just there, and you are forced to ask, well, wait a minute, what was that all about? So I really was struck with just how much I saw it, knowing I would have to look at it again to get all that was going on.
Why do you think more artists don't take the approach that Donald Glover took on this video?
Well, I think I think for a number of reasons. It's just my opinion. I think some people do their art for very specific reasons. I think Donald Glover is a storyteller at his heart. For him to do a dramatic but funny series about the town he grew up here in America, Atlanta, and it to be reaching the levels it has reached says quite a bit about him, says quite a bit about his vision, says quite a bit about him. For him to adopt a persona just to do his rap stuff also says a lot about him. It's about he doesn't, you may connect the dots, but you might not. He's interested in speaking in different areas. So I think some people, in terms of music videos and studio influence and things like that, I don't know that they all have the feeling that they have the freedom, and I don't know if they all have complete visions like him. You know,
Yeah.
I think
I think there's very few people that are so in touch with what's happening in society.
Yep.
And listen, this is not to say that a lot of our artists or even, rappers, they're not, well read, and so they're and so I don't know if it's that a lot of these guys, these artists today, don't want to pick up a newspaper. They're not activists. They don't want to be involved in activism in any way or use their art to do activism. They're just like Migos and, they just want to have a good time with the music. And yes, we all need that. But I think right now more than ever, we need artists to step up and create art that allows for us to be entertained, yes, but at the same time say something, allow us to understand wisdom that can help us understand sort of more of a radical clarity on what's happening in society today. I love comedians for that. Comedians are the most insightful people on the planet.
It's interesting because I've interviewed a few very talented rappers recently in their early 20s, and I question some of their lyrics and some of the misogynism and why and what are they thinking, and their answer is generally, oh, I'm just having fun, and I'm just doing this for fun. It's just fun. I just want to have fun. I want a good time. I want to create a vibe. And, I think that that's all well and good. But again, like I said, I don't know that art for art's sake works for me. I feel like if you got my attention, you need to be saying something. I think that there's a responsibility to art. And I think that art is change. I think everything about art is what changes us. It makes us understand ourselves, in terms of storytelling. I think that not that you can't have a song called, Don't Worry, Be Happy, but even that had something to say. It's talking about things that you could be unhappy about and the things you should be looking at. So
you make music reflecting the times that we're living in. And I just feel that a lot of the music doesn't fit with the outrage that we're suffering.
No, and it doesn't all have to do that, but I agree with you.
But I'm not saying that all has to do with that, but I'm saying that art at some point has to reflect some of that.
Absolutely. Those are the artists.
And I feel like we're not,
Those are the artists like the John Lennons, the Fela Kutis, they're the ones who will be remembered for generations. The Bob Marleys, they're the ones.
Right. The Calle 13.
Calle 13, exactly. Lots of Cuban music.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, Mike, before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about, there's a movie coming out this weekend called Breaking In. And I believe it's with Gabrielle Union, which is Dwayne Wade's wife, and Rosalind Sanchez is also in it. And it looks like it's a thriller. Or am I mistaken with Gabrielle Union?
No, it's Gabrielle Union. Yes, it is.
Okay. And it seems like it's a thriller about a home invasion from what it looks like in the trailer. I could be wrong about that. I didn't see the movie, but you had a chance to see it. Is this a movie worth paying money to go see, or is this something we should wait for the DVD?
Let me say this. Okay, let me say the good. The good is that Will Packer produces. He's doing things with people of color that we've traditionally don't get to see people of color doing, whether all kinds of genres, and I love that. So I'm much love to Will Packer. Gabrielle Union is a very good actress. She's got a pretty good career for herself going, and she does very good in this. She's easily as good as many of her Caucasian counterparts, just in terms of, you can't help but watching like a Black female-led thriller is a rarity. Okay. And so you have to appreciate that. So, and the premise, the setup, that her dad has died. He was very wealthy. Did something having to do with the government. I don't want to give it away. And, she's got to go and, clean out the property and set up the selling of the house. And she brings the two kids, her teenage daughter and her 10 or 11-year-old son, away with her for the weekend while she does this. None of them want to go, but they have to go. She's really estranged from her dad, so they haven't spoken or seen the kids in years. When they get there, someone has already broken in, and that's where the story begins. And it's a really good setup. There are a lot of things about it that are good setups. The dad was paranoid, so he had like a fortress. You're like, okay, this could be used for or against him. There's some really good things there where he's got a great security system that the little boy knows how to use. Nice setup. There are just a lot of things about it that set you up good. But then somewhere along the way, I have to assume there were edits where there are plot threads that don't go anywhere. There are plot holes. There are just a number of things that just don't go the way you want. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it definitely could have used maybe a rewrite before they filmed, because there are things that just don't make sense in the way the film is edited. So
1 to 10?
I'd have to say like a 6. 6.5.
Okay, is it guilty pleasure fun?
It's definitely guilty pleasure fun. Definitely guilty pleasure fun. Like a Lifetime movie.
Okay, so it's not $20 at the movie theaters, but it's like a matinee,
absolutely,
or a neighborhood theater that has a special, $9 movies, for 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. That's the type of thing you could probably.
Absolutely.
What I did like about Breaking from what I saw in the trailer, Mike, was this. Rosalind Sanchez, Puerto Riqueña, she's in the movie. I saw Caucasians, I think they were the villains. And there's a black group of friends hanging out in an upscale home. Looks like upstate or, a very massive home. Almost look like a mansion. And what we're seeing more and more is this acceptance for movie viewers to see an interracial friendship on film. Latinos, blacks, whites, et cetera, where before it was just like, okay, we're making a black movie, everybody's black. We're making a point here. We're making a Latino movie, same thing. White movies have always been white almost forever, right? But now you're seeing like this mix of diversity on screen, and it's starting to seem normal.
There's nothing about it that seems unrealistic. It just seems actually even more realistic because of the casting. I agree with you 1,000%.
So it sounds to me that Breaking In, that's coming out this week, is not a must-see movie, but it's a movie if you have some time and you're in a particular mood to watch a guilty pleasure type of thriller.
Absolutely guilty pleasure.
That you don't care if the production feels like a Lifetime movie or not. You're just in the mood for a female-led thriller that gets your blood pumping a little bit. It's not great, but it's satisfying enough that you can get your kicks out of it and move on with your life. But you were entertained for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours, right?
It's enjoyable. You just wish it was better.
Can anything that's not better be enjoyable?
Absolutely. There's tons of things. Like you said, the guilty pleasure movies where you may know you're aware of some of the flaws, but you enjoyed the ride anyway.
Listen, we're going to do a whole podcast episode, defending bad movies and why bad movies are necessary in our lives. We'll get into that because I have a whole argument about that.
Oh, I get it.
Mike Sargent, thank you very much for being on the podcast this week, recapping on some of the big stories this week in particular. And you can catch Mike on WBAI Radio. Mike, tell us a little bit about your radio show and how people can tune in if they're not in New York. Let's say they're in LA or in Miami and they want to tune in. Is there a link online that they can listen to?
Sure. Well, you can do one of two things, or one of three things. On our Facebook page, gives you all the information. Night Shift, NITESHIFT. But I also have a website, lifeislikesciencefiction.com. I got shows going back, for over 10 years. And then if you want to listen online Monday nights at midnight, I'm on from midnight till 3 a.m. Eastern Time, WBAI.org.
That's it for episode 76 of the Highly Relevant Podcast. Thank you, Mike Sargent, for coming on the show and for hanging out with me. If you guys dug this conversation, Please go ahead and share, retweet, and recommend this show on all your social media platforms. Remember, it's through your word of mouth that our show can grow. I'm Jack Rico. See you next week on another episode of Highly Relevant.